And good morning, everybody out there. It is December 3rd, 2023, 8:16 in the AM Eastern Standard Time. And I almost want to call this a rainy Sunday show, but we'll see. Anyway, yesterday was a fantastic day, December 2nd of 2023, because in Bristol, Virginia, on the Virginia side, Bristol is on the exist on the state line of Virginia and Tennessee, was I believe it was the third or fourth, we'll go with third annual Tri Cities Comic Con, ran by a guy named Chris Garvey. Um, and I got to say, man, it was a pretty good show, considering that it is supposed to be a smaller show, right? And met my buddy Josh there. He gave me a Christmas present I'll be showing off here. And there were some great dealers, and even though it wasn't a huge con and stuff like that, deals were there to be made. 50-cent boxes, dollar boxes, keys, good feel. Everybody was there, and those dealers would work with you. And I actually spent a little bit of money and got some key books, so some little bit of some collectibles. And of course, I ended up buying a bunch of stuff in the 50-cent bins that did I really need? No, no. But they were 50 cents. And a few magazines, one which I kind of regret because I didn't look at it and stuff, right? So basically, over the last week or two or things like that, I had a little minor medical checkup procedure done. One of the reasons I'm not shooting so much on YouTube and stuff. Things went pretty good. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. And before I get into the comics here and stuff, I don't know if you guys have heard about this little Doctor Who 60th anniversary special that's on Disney Plus and stuff. But we ended up getting Disney Plus in this house again because they have a deal to where it actually had my wife's bill be cheaper. So we have Disney Plus in the house. And the first thing I ended up checking out and watching was the Doctor Who's special that came on. And it almost broke me. It almost broke me with how bad it was, considering that it was called Star Beast. It's all over YouTube. You could probably just it's all over YouTube. Everybody has just jumped on the thing about down in Disney and stuff. So I'm focusing real quick just for a minute here. Bear with me on this Doctor Who's 60th anniversary thing. And it was so bad. It was based on Star Beast. It's an actual comic from the early 80s. With Doctor Who here in the States. I think I can't remember if it was Doctor Who #1 or Marvel Premiere or whatever, but I have it. And reprints from England, if you will, Dave Gibbons art and everything like that. And I was just sort of like, oh no, because normally with the way movies are in comics and everything elevated in Hollywood there for quite a while and everything like that, I think people were like, okay, didn't really bat an eye. I've read the comic. I knew about the comic, and I was sitting here thinking, "Oh no, they're scraping the bottom of the barrel." I recognized it. The comic is actually really good for what it is, but it's a comic. And when I watched that special, it was so bad. There was parts of it that were so bad and so preachy and so transparent. Um, I wanted to quit. I wanted to quit everything. I'm like, is this what the fandom is going to be? And it's one of the few times I'm actually glad to see there was a rise of everybody on all sides of the spectrum there, or even BBC and everybody sort of like called it out for what it was. And I was like, there's hope. There's hope. So, with that said, let me show you a few pickups I've had and a few things, and maybe there'll be rants later. People like rants. Good morning, John C. So at the comic book convention, yeah, let me show you this. We'll talk about the comic book convention, right? So I went ahead and bought this. I usually will buy my books used, Goodwill, whatever. I went ahead and bought this one new because, as you can see, this was re-released. I believe it was last year because of the this year because of the Sandman Netflix series. So what you have here is a book that actually came out in 1996. I was 23. It's blown my mind how long ago 1996 was. And we did not have a bookstore in my town. You would have to drive hour and a half away. Um, eBay wasn't even really a thing at the time. Online shopping was minimal and things like that. But I knew about this book and I'm like, I'll get around to getting it. Never got around to getting it. And what this is that this is edited by Neil Gaiman, and they brought in tons of authors to come in, and they did short stories, short novellas of the Sandman and its characters of the Endless and things. And only one story takes place in the Dreaming. And Neil Gaiman comes in with a little paragraph, 2 paragraphs introduction for each story. And you can kind of tell that some of these stories are actually set in the continuity of the Sandman series. I've read 3 stories in this, and this thing is fantastic. I almost want to do a booktube review. So I'm going to probably read a few more stories. Check out YouTube, see if the booktubers have already been all over this. But this is fantastic. I got this at Books A Million. I'm glad I paid for it. I really ended up enjoying this. All right. Different takes, different styles. Some of the stories are downright fun. I just read a book about Cain and Abel that takes place while Dream is in another world and stuff. And the lady who wrote that one, let me tell you something, she has got to be a fan because she wrote Cain and Abel exactly like they are in the DC comics. I was just like, where was this person? Where's this person at? She should have been right in the Dreaming, what we find out, So it was great. Oh, thanks, man. Thanks for the nice hat. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Uh-oh. We are frozen up. We'll see what's going on here. There we go. We're back. Froze up there, guys. Sorry. Oh, and I have comments, and I have 5 more people watching now by the time I froze up. All right. Thank you for the hat. Yeah, thanks for the compliment on the hat. And we're going to move on. I'm freezing up again. Let's see what's going on. Apologies if it looks normal to you. No, that's going to be a pain. There we go. And good morning, Sumerian. We may not be able to do the comments. There we go. Now, I think we're back in line. So, I'm going to show you the books from the 50-cent bin leading up to it. And it'll get better, folks. If you have me on Instagram, then you kind of already know what I have here. Oh, looks like they're not in perfect order. But one of the first things I have here is in 1994, we actually got a comic book shop. It was actually the second one. And I'll read a comment here in a minute. And I kind of respected what this guy did on the book. I almost want to say kindred spirit because I was a metalhead punkhead. I have a few years there where the glam hair metal bands got me because of my age. And when you have a girl telling you to come here when you're at a skating rink and you're a teenage boy with your hair, your mullet, if you will, and they want you to sit, in the floor between their legs while they play with your hair, you're going to have a softer spot for Bret Michaels and Poison than you had before, and then you snap out of it. Thank goodness, But when I saw this book, this book, I'm not saying you should go out and get it. This is by no means a work of a masterpiece of a savant. If you get what I'm saying here. But this guy Drew Hayes drew this, inked this, wrote this, got it out there, and some of the little editorials he has. Apparently, he still had like a roommate and stuff, and he was getting it and stuff. And sadly, this guy passed away. It was in the 2000s, and it was actually sad because this guy felt like he took everything he loved, metal, D&D, fantasy, things like that, and it felt like you were reading some kind of warped version of Dungeons and Dragons a little bit and stuff. And it was called Poison Elves through Serious Comics, and this book lasted quite a while when you consider one person was doing all the work. From what I remember, one of the main characters is Lucifer. He has a magic gun that never runs out of bullets. And we're just going to let you see what's here, man. So I found these for 50 cents a piece. I grabbed 1 or 2 here and there over the years. I never really wanted to spend the money because, like I said, it wasn't the most. It's not well written. It's not real drawn, but it's passionate. And this guy's taken every ounce of ability that he has, and he's taken it to 110%. So I think it's more about this guy coming out with a dream and doing it is what it feels like. I might be projecting on this guy, but he feels like he's every comic book fan that wanted to do something, and he did it, right? So that's so I can read this with a lot of forgiveness for what it is. I have low expectations for it, but at the same time, I don't want to play down on it and act like this guy's efforts were for nothing. So I think it's a very niche market. I think it's a very cult-like book, but I just like the idea of this guy just doing it. There's tons of indie books out there, tons of people coming out with their own books, but this is the one where this doesn't feel like this guy is doing any sort of trendiness. It's not a trendy book. I feel like I said, this guy takes fantasy, he takes backsheet, he takes a little bit of heavy metal, he takes a splash of oh my god, of Testament, if you know who that band is, and things like that, right? Just fantastic, what he's done here, and like it's all his. I can't think of another book that's like this. It is black and white indie, of course. So a lot of people, that is your thing, and you can just, and the guy just kept it going. It's going to be really cool to see how far he went with it, with what's going on here. So this is not ElfQuest, people. I'm just going to let you know. We have violence and boobies and things like that, just to give you a taste here. And I loved how a lot of his artwork really did. Oh, this has got guest people on it. Looks like he had some people come in and do some issues for him. But yeah, they go on and on and on. Lucifer and Lilith, whatever their name is and stuff here. But let me give you a sample here of some of the artwork of what you get into, right? Like I said, it feels like old school black and white indie. You get prose. Okay. That's something he does every now and then. Okay. Traditional comic-like stuff, if you will. The talking heads, the bubbles, the plot, the art. And I could just sit here and tell that he just gets better and better at this and stuff, right? But like I said, it's also jazzed up with a bit of sex. So there you go. Good stuff. If you want something offbeat, really glad I got those. There's a ton of them. I'm not going to kill you with all the covers and stuff, but 16 up until the 70s. I think I got about 15 or 16 issues here of this, through Series Comics of the 90s into the 2000s. Like I said, when that guy passed away, man, there was a bit of sadness for me, because I was just sort of like, man, that guy did it. You know what I mean? I don't know if he ever became rich. I don't think he ever became famous, but he definitely passed away loved with a fandom, and people like me who were like, good for you, man, you did it. All right. So let's see if we can not freeze up while I look at comments here, because Mr. Gore Vidal is here. Mornington, do the review of this book. I think I probably will. There's a chasm between booktubers and the comic book tubers. It's like Protestants and Catholics after the Reformation. Oh no, well, we can't have that. It all comes from the same place, same experiences, same sources, and just a flat out love of stories. If anything, they rarely interact. The ones that do are heretics. Oh no, well. Nice. So yeah, that's we'll get that out of the way there. So Gore, I will definitely think about it there. Let me get the rest of these 50-cent books. Was that $1? No, these are 50 cents. All righty. I don't want to show the good stuff too soon. We're gonna save that for last. And there is some good stuff here. Oh, and for you guys that maybe have popped in or may have had a lot going on Thanksgiving, check out the live stream before this. I actually ended up getting the first appearance of Cloak and Dagger, and I think 6 or 7 issues of the actual Uncanny X-Men, Dark Phoenix saga, like 131 to 137. Got those for a steal, practically a great deal on those, along with some other Hall stuff, right? Hey, JLS Comics is here. Grandmaster is here. Good to see you guys, right? So this is this is some more 50-cent stuff, right? And this kind of cracks me up, because basically, do I need this stuff? I said it before, not really, but if I see this stuff, I'm going to grab it, and it cracks me up. I'm pretty sure this was in the 50-cent bin, right? But sometimes I will just get some of these books, like I said, just to kind of show people that you don't need to listen to speculators. You don't need to get online. You don't need to run to eBay. You don't need to pay the prices. If you get out there and dig, put things out in the universe a little bit, just get out there and have fun with it. Whatever you need to hear, you can go out and get it. But believe it or not, it's an official Howler Mouse Time video, because I just got interrupted by the phone. But anyway, for a while there, this was a hot book, because this is where Moon Knight joined the Avengers, the West Coast Avengers, if you will. It is hilarious, unintentionally, or maybe intentionally. Maybe it was a little tongue in cheek, because I remember picking some of these up. in a bunch of some back issue bins in the 80s, late 80s, when I was able to get, because this was newsstand, but it was not on our newsstand in my town. So I remember grabbing a bunch of these at one point, just all excited to read what was going on with the West Coast Avengers. I mean, it was a Marvel book that I could not read at the time, and of course the art was weak. I'm sorry if you guys are fans of Al Milgrom and whoever's working on it. And then when we get Moon Knight in here, they treated him like Batman in LA. He would The Avengers would be meeting outside, and you could see palm trees out in the distance and stuff. And then of course there'd be like some random little one-story building, and Moon Knight would be like Batman posing on it with his crescent cape flapping in the wind because he's a loner. That just cracked me up. Well, this was thanks to the TV show or whatever that came on Disney Plus and stuff. A lot of Moon Knight books were spec, and this was one of them. This is my third one. I found the other ones in dollar bins. This one 50-cent bin with newsstand. So it just kind of shows that when a book is spec, it's hot at the moment, but it doesn't have long. It's bullshit. Okay, I'm just going to let you know. A lot of times it is bullshit, right? Now this was something I'm plugging up holes, right? I need one issue of Infinity Incorporated to plug up a hole. I need one issue here of Captain Carrot and Amazing Zoo Crew. I might need two issues here, a little bit there. No matter what your collection is, no matter what run you're trying to finish, there seems to be this. I don't know if it's maybe it's a little bit of a karmatic magic that comes in, because like you'll find runs of it, right? You'll find cheap runs of this of some of the comics you need for that overall run, and then you get down to those last two or three, even if they're not worth any money, and you're like, they're impossible to find. They're just not out there. And then, like me, when I completed my James Robinson Starman run, I run across 5 or 6 or 7 cons where I got in there and I found almost complete runs or big chunks of runs, or that comic I couldn't find 2 or 3 times. I don't know why that happens, but I'm not the only one that experiences this with comic book collectors, right? So all of a sudden, so basically I've got, for 50 cents, I got number 4 of this miniseries. And what was wild about this prestige format graphic novel square bound book that came out is that it is painted. This is pre-Alex Ross, written by Walter and Louise Simonson. It's Havoc and Wolverine meltdown where they're on the road and they end up having an adventure. And you would have John J. Muth come in, and I think he did all the artwork on, we'll say, Havoc, maybe. And he also was painted by Kent Williams, who did all the artwork on Wolverine. One did all the Wolverine, one did all the Havoc and stuff, right? I've had 1 and 2 forever. And even though this book, I guess in certain circles, isn't really a key book or isn't really worth that much, it was new at the time. It was exciting at the time. And I never really come across a full set. And 1 and 2 were all over the place. But what was amazing is that this was the kind of stuff that you would see advertised for direct market. You would not see it on the newsstands. This actually was on the newsstand. So you have to look on the back, see if it's got the UPC symbol. This one is newsstand, but you had newsstand, direct market. And that's what made this really exciting. You felt like you were getting that higher quality of the mythic and magical direct market at the time that you would read so much about in editorials and stuff, and see these books that you could only get there. They had a bit of a mystique if you couldn't make it. All right, 50-cent books. We'll get through these. Secrets of the Legion of Superheroes. This is number 1 from 1998. They had done a 0-hour reboot with these guys. They hadn't done the 3-boot yet. Not going to kill you with the Legion because you're either into the Legion or you're not by this time. And one of the reasons I was really glad to find this one is that, yes, it's not a key book or anything, but when you get in here, if you're new to the Legion, okay, this had a lot of who pages to get you on board with what's going on. These guys were more of the Legionnaires at the time than the Legion of Superheroes. So you have a whole bunch of who's who entries here if you're a who aficionado. And then to catch people up, oh, these are fantastic. Anyway, to catch people up, you got a Legion chronology to catch you up with what was going on, to catch you up in the stories. And then here's how you get to see every Legion member. You can look this up, but this is a fantastic 2-page spread by Phil Jimenez. And on the back of it, you get a chart to let you know who each character is, right? I've used this as a thumbnail for several of my videos over the years, at least one. What is going on with the StreamYard this morning? This is StreamYard messing up and glitching, guys. If it's showing up on your end, it's not my internet. That's amazing. But anyway, this is just fantastic stuff. Great stuff to catch you up on the Legion, to get that trivia in if you just enjoy reading, because of course it comes with a few short stories. Just a lot of fun. Catches a good spirit, retells the origin, probably in a rebooted fashion. But yeah, that's how you kind of get into things and get caught up and get knowledgeable. There are books out there that give you a recap. It's just about getting out there and finding them. I totally get that. Okay, and then we have the GSA Secret Files. There's two of these. The first one, of course, is the first appearance of the new Hot Girl, who's supposedly going to be hot here again pretty soon. I didn't understand why she was so hot the first time when it came out back in '99. And this is the second one. It's got a villainess named Roulette, who has popped up in Justice League cartoons in the 2000s, the Bruce Timm universe and things like that. And this was a hot book for there for a while just because of her. She's a legacy villain, if you will. Okay, we'll just put it that way, right? But I always grab these if they're cheap, 50 cents. Why would I not? Always trying to complete that 300 issues of Hellblazer, and I had to get this one. This is 50 cents, guys. This was 265, number 265. The original John Constantine Vertigo Hellblazer ran for 300 issues. They squashed it because of the DC 52 coming up, I guess, if I remember right. Gosh, who knows? I don't need very many, but like I said, I sort of really slowed down getting Hellblazer because the consistency of quality of books after you get past the first, we'll say 100 issues, just to round it off. Garth Ennis, Jamie Delano, Pete Milligan, I think a touch of Warren Ellis. But depending on the creative team, the quality of this book goes up and down. So not getting all 300 issues hasn't really been a priority since I read a few stinkers in there. And of course, I had some that were just unappreciated classic stories in there, right? So why did I get this one? Because, yes, I want the 300 issues, but for 50 cents, I get a Sid Vicious cover. So I don't know what the deal is, because that is blatantly Sid Vicious, and he's cut words on his chest. If you know the history of Punk, Iggy Pop, of Sid Vicious, of Glass and Peanut Butter, you will totally get why this is just cool. And I actually hate that they put the Hellblazer banner over this, for a change. Good stuff there. And it turns out it was issue 45 I needed of this next series, as I am filling runs, completing runs, and everything like that. Secret Origins. Now, I love Who. I love handbooks of the Marvel Universe, handbooks of the Sumerian Universe, things like that, Secret Origins tales and stuff, right? See where these characters come from, see what the core of the character was, see what the theme was, see what the original subtext was. Things that I think that if you're going to be working on any of these characters professionally in any sense, cartoon, comic book, or anything wise, you need to go back to the fountain, to the source, and see where they came from, and then you can mess with them. You know what I mean? But there were 50 issues, and I think an annual or two of the Secret Origins series that came out in the 80s. And there was one that was actual reprints in the 70s. But anyway, there was 50 issues, a couple annuals, and I keep needing one issue. And I keep thinking it's issue 44 when it's actually issue 45 with Blackhawk and El Diablo in it, right? But anyway, I got an upgrade, Batman in the Mud Pack. Now, what was cool about this one, I think there's a little bit of marketing going on there that I don't know why they didn't repeat, but in Detective Comics, they had a story going on where you got all the clay faces came in and they formed a team called the Mud Pack, right? Well, right before this happened, or the same month, they did a Secret Origins where you get all the origins of all the clay faces all together, and this thing flew off the rack from Batman fans at the time. Batman, you got to understand, in comics was rejuvenated and hot because of Frank Miller. We'll just call it what it is, with his Dark Knight Returns and everything that was going on. What year is that? I don't think Tim Burton's Batman movie was hitting. Nope. Yes, it was 1989. Wow. I was 16. So yes, Batman was hot, right? And then I got these because I love Jay Lee art, right? I got number 1 when this came out in the 90s, Marvel Knights. This is the line of comics that led to Joe Quesada become the new editor-in-chief, because these out-of-continuity books called Marvel Knights that they just sort of handed Joe Quesada a few characters, and he brought in a few teams, and basically he let them elevate comics from what was going on at the time. These comics were actually so much cooler than 99% of what Marvel was doing at the time, right? You had Punisher with Bernie Wrightson coming on. They made it a horror book. It still got attention. Black Panther. And then they also had Inhumans and who am I thinking of? Marvel Boy? I don't know. But anyway, the Marvel Knights line was very cool for a lot of people. You had sketchbooks that popped up in Wizard magazines, sealed up so you could see what was coming. They had two launches. The first one really surprised people. Oh, Kevin Smith and Joe Quesada on Daredevil, of course, right? That was under Marvel Knights and stuff, right? But anyway, it's the Inhumans. I got issue 12, 1 and 12, and these Marvel Knight books, I don't know if they actually sold off the spinner racks at the time, but it's like the first few issues would be there, and then they just wouldn't be on the racks anymore. I'm not sure what happened. Don't really have an answer. But anyway, this is number 2. And of course, one of the issues is super hot because it has the debut of White Widow or Black Widow's replacement or whatever you want to call her. Not a big deal. It will pop up. But like I said, I've had issue 1 and 12 forever. Love the Jay Lee art. Love the Inhumans. Can't really say too much about the story. I just remember it really didn't stand out to me. But these are Inhumans are one of my favorite Jack Kirby creations. The whole Black Bolt costume with the wings. These characters really stuck out to me when I was a kid reading my stepdad's Fantastic Fours. Okay, Karnak, Medusa, of course, Triton, Triton, the underwater your fish-like character was one of my favorites, especially seeing him drawn by Neil Adams when the Inhumans showed up in the Avengers in the Silver Age by Roy Thomas there. Lockjaw was a popular character, even if you read Fantastic Four. But yeah, something about Triton. I always, Creature from the Black Lagoon is my favorite Universal monster. So, those water creatures. And of course, Jay Lee brought this dynamic style to them and some great I think Alex Ross and Jay Lee could be two of the greatest artists on Humans with how they design and move the characters forward and everything. Let me see here. Comments. Bring them on. Keep them going. Good morning. John J. Muth and Kent Williams, brilliant artists. They drew my favorite vampire comic, Blood, in the late 80s. That may be ringing a bell. I'm not sure. Now, John J. Muth, absolutely a great artist. Kent Williams gets a bit of a bad rap, man, because like he has different styles with his art, and he has drawn stuff that just people hated, and he's drawn some beautiful stuff. He actually worked on a Destiny miniseries of The Endless, and man, that was rough. I mean, even for him. But Kent Williams, I've seen some of the stuff he does outside of comics, and I get it. The man is an artist. I could never complete the Havoc Wolverine run. I haven't seen that issue anywhere, and that's fine. It's beat up to do the 50-cent thing, but isn't that wild about that? I don't understand why that has been so hard for people to find, but they're not expensive books. I'm with you on that one. Maybe it's just this weird coincidence in the universe. Sumerian, yeah, you're right about those last few issues. You're always looking for being through 2 to find, 1 to find. It really sucks when people determine those issues are hot, but looking forward to the last 2 issues of the Max for years. Yeah, there's what print runs on those. Max is another one I'm trying to complete, and look up the last issue of Gru, issue 120. That is going to blow your mind how much that's worth. Let me see what we have here. I did enjoy all of Hellblazer. Even the weaker arcs are good. I often return and read an arc. Yeah, maybe I was a little bit too harsh just because I'm trying to move through the video and stuff like that. The series overall is fantastic, but like I said, Jason Aaron did a 3-part story where he just went too far, and it was one of the few times I actually set down a comic and never finished it. When you have a person hallucinating and fornicating with a dead dog who has been hit by a car in the middle of the road, I'm out. I'm like, apparently bestiality is my limit. Necrophilia, you figured I would say that first, but yeah, necrophiliac bestiality is where I draw the line apparently in any form of entertainment. So, oh wow, yeah. sometimes you wake up and there's just things you never thought you were going to say, you know. So we've looked at these. Yeah, we're just moving along this morning, guys. And let me see here. Now we're at the dollar books, I do believe. Let me make sure. Nope. I just have a few dollar books. All right. So one or two of the 50-cent books may have been in the dollar bins because I know I had five. So I made mistakes on two of those. Well, what are you going to do, right? So before we get to the good stuff here, this is also good stuff, but we'll say key books, whatnot, whatever, right? But anyway, fantastic series, right? And out of the trilogy, I have not read the last one completely through, just the first issue or two. But over the years, Matt Wagner has definitely become famous for Grendel. And I think Grendel may be the main character, the most popular, right? But there's also another character that definitely has a fan following, if you will, and it's where Matt Wagner draws himself and he ages the character exactly like how he ages in his head. But this guy started out in the Hero Discovered Mage, number 11. Now, I have various issues of the Comico, they got me saying it now. Comico. I've heard people do interviews and they've referred to as Comico and Comico. And I feel like in some of those interviews, the people who were more in the know called it Comico. Not that it's an issue. I'm going to get everybody's last name wrong in the profession anyway, because I learned words through reading more than I did hearing them. But anyway, we have Mage here, number 11, and I absolutely love this first arc of Mage, the Hero Discovered. Absolutely love it. It's if you haven't read it before, the basic premise is our protagonist here is the Kevin Matchstick, who is actually Matt Wagner. Is the reincarnation of King Arthur and Excalibur as a bat, and as he moves to fight this great evil coming, a mage appears, much like a Merlin, if you will, and is trying to help him find his destiny a little bit on a street urban level. You know, if you like street urban magic and myth, that's kind of what he's done. He's taken it from a fantasy realm to a urban realm, and he meets other people who are great historic figures, if you will, of fantasy and things that are also reincarnated in the real world. So yeah, this first one, I always love finding these issues. All right, just plucking along. Like I said, I have a Image really did a really good job of coming out with some reprints and things over the years, stuff recoloring things like that. This is one of those issues. I finally completed this run. Now I can sit down and actually read all four of these issues. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, this came out at a weird time with DC where they were trying to be, everything was supposed to be grim and gritty. At the same time, yet have some kind of moral message in it to be a little bit preachy. 1989-90 was kind of a weird time for some of the stuff coming out. Don't know why it got like that. You know, maybe it's where I feel like it's the 60s, 70s liberal influence. Coming, you know, into comics, and those guys were still trying to be a little bit holding on to another era, if you will, right? And yeah, I'm talking about people like Denny O'Neil and stuff like that, right? Not saying it's a bad thing, right? But anyway, this is by Mindy Newell, J.J. Burke, and Mike Baer. There's a 4-issue prestige format miniseries that came out. This has to be 89 also. I've had 2, 3, and 4 forever, and I always end up buying issue 2, 3, and 4 because I forget about number 1. And I do remember reading a little bit of this. So even if the story is weak, it's still 89, you know, 80s Catwoman. And it's got Mike Baer on it, who always saves any kind of artwork that he touches. You know, he's a great artist, right? So there are positives to this, right? And I don't know why I'm acting like this toward this book. I just know what I flipped through didn't really catch me. Reading it from the beginning, it's amazing what happens when you read a complete story and then form an opinion. It's just amazing. It can completely change your opinion. Isn't that amazing? So anyway, I'm gonna be really glad to finally read this. Now, As much as my little opinion here, that means nothing now, with this and stuff. My favorite Catwoman is still, God, was it her Bronze Age look? Now that I'm going blank, but I liked when she still had like the whip of nine tails and she still had the costume with the skirt that split up the sides. That's still always going to be my favorite Catwoman. I don't know why, I can't even say it's a nostalgic thing. I can't say that was the first image of Catwoman in my head looking at the comics and stuff. Something about that costume just fits better. Maybe it's where it's a throwback a little bit to the 40s. I don't know. But yeah, this Catwoman, nothing wrong with it. And let's face it, Michelle Pfeiffer has got to be the most aesthetically pleasing Catwoman ever, in my opinion. So there you go. Nothing that matters. And here's a book this was in a dollar bin. I want to say this book ran maybe 2.5 years. I don't know, but I remember seeing the advertisements for it. I remember seeing the advertisements in Wizard. I'm pretty sure Wizard magazine, when I was reading it, did an article on this. Yet, I didn't know any of my comic book aficionados at the time actually reading this. And it's Stephen T. Siegel, who's a great writer. Becky Cloonan. What's going on here? Becky Cloonan is the artist on it. I really haven't checked out her stuff in here, but the name is ringing a bell. But I figure it's a #1 issue. This came out in 2006. And in the dollar box, I found out there was a pretty good run of it. And I didn't want to I figured I can find the other issues. But #1, it's called American Virgin. And this was an impulse buy. This was in great shape. There's a whole run, and I saw the #1 on it. And it's got these great Frank Quitely covers on it, right? So there's nothing more striking to seeing a guy lounging around on somebody's textured tongue there. What does that say on his shirt? Save yourself, right? So I figured, hey, we'll check it out. And hopefully, or unfortunately, or however you want to say it, maybe I'll have another series I need to complete that's going to take forever. So, good morning, Easy Comic Reader. Good to see you. You snuck in there while I was doing this. Yeah, why? Guys, I don't know how it's looking on your end, but StreamYard is definitely glitching on my end. So, anybody watching this in the future, I'd apologize, but it's not my fault. Anyway, so now let me see how I want to present these. Now we're at to the better stuff. Now I was only at the comic book convention for about 2.5 hours. I saw my buddy Josh. He was looking around. We had a pretty good time with it, in my opinion. And like I said, I found a few good things here. And there's one book I'm seeing here. I know where the dollar book is now. I'll talk about it in a minute. Apparently, did not bring it down. So let's just jump into the magazines here. I got 2 magazines, and one is a regret because I had to clean this thing up last night. It is beat up, water damaged, and had mildew on it. When I took it out of the bag, I'm like, are you kidding me, right? But Gore Vidal is here, so, that's who I'm going to refer to if I go too far here and everything like that. But for years, I heard about Love and Rockets. For years, I saw advertisements and articles and stuff where they showed that first issue where it looks like a mugshot lining of the usual suspects, and it's alternative 80s and stuff. You know what I mean? That #1 issue to me is an iconic image in comics. I might have a comic here somewhere where I feel like they're throwing back to that, right? So I never got around to reading it because it was not available. And then in the 90s, even at comic book shops I went to, I didn't see anything with Love and Rockets. But at the same time, there was an alternative band that came out of the Bajas. If you know who that is, Bela Lugosi's dead. And again, Love and Rockets, when they came out in the 80s, I actually loved that band. And I still listen to them. And it was like I was getting teased even more. I'm like, what is this Love and Rockets? It's Kismet. In the 90s, I found out one of the members of Love and Rockets / Bajas was so into comics that he actually named his band after Love and Rockets. Plus, and you can find it on YouTube, he did some musical work with Alan Moore. This guy used his rock and roll alternative privilege there to end up hanging out and meeting these guys and stuff. So there's a lot of what I'm trying to get at is that there's a lot of roads that led to Love and Rockets if I want to romanticize my journey in comics and stuff, right? Then it got on YouTube, and there's people that sort of read Love and Rockets, and they also read kind of Grindel, and they read things like Grimjack and stuff, all these great things. Like, I'm very knowledgeable about comic books. I've got the catalog here, but If it wasn't on the stands, I didn't read it. So it's always great to be able to find something and have it be new to you. You know what I mean? Have that feeling of like, great, I'm rediscovering something from getting to end, and it's good not to know anything. I would love to be able to go back in time and read The Watchmen for the first time and Dark Knight Returns for the first time and a few issues of some Jack Kirby stuff for the first time, right? To have that magic again, have it be all new. So basically what I'm saying is I finally got a real issue of Love and Rockets, issue number 35, all the way around here, right? And like I said, when I got home, I should have inspected it. I paid $5 for it. It's the only one they had. And if the dealer that does that, I know him. I've known him off and on for years. If you're watching this, I do apologize, but this is exactly why I don't buy a lot from you. I get your books home, they're musty 9 times out of 10, and something like this happens. Fortunately, the inside pages are creamy white. I don't understand how that happens. So last night I got a damp paper towel, and a few tricks I know. Actually flattened it out, got some of the water damage off, which is not, that's a crapshoot in my eyes. You might look up sometimes, but on the inside, it's not going to come out. I don't know if it's going to show up. The brown staining that's definitely in the gutter here, you know. But like I said, the story is complete and whole, so it is attached. Like I said, I got some of the water damage and the wrinkles out, but there's definitely spots of mildew still on this that will never go away. It's great in the paper. So anyway, I finally get to sit down and have a Love and Rockets experience with issue 35. And that's going to finally let me know which way to go on what trades to get stuff with my taste, what's going to grab me. Now, here's what's wild about this, right? And I had a few people message me after I mentioned this and stuff, but at Heroes Con, it's one of the more recent ones. We're going to say in the last 5 years. I cannot remember what year it is. There's 2 years that Heroes Con did not happen because of the pandemic and stuff, which throws me off. But I met the Hernandez brothers in Charlotte, North Carolina. They were in the same hotel as I was, and we were in the lobby sitting there enjoying ourselves, maybe having a few drinks, because a lot of people from the Heroes Con would walk across the street and stay in this hotel in particular. And it had a great, huge lobby downstairs, a little bar restaurant on the side. So yeah, I had a few words with the Hernandez brothers while they were there with their family and wives and things like that. But it was very awkward because of the setting, and I'm a bit of an introvert. I can chat some people up and never meet a stranger. Then there's times where I'm just sort of like, it's not happening. You never know what you're going to get with me. So I kind of felt it's a few times it's ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous and it's in my head and there's no reason for it. But I felt kind of bad for knowing so many people that are Hernandez brothers fans, and I'm the one that gets to meet them. That didn't feel right, and I don't know where that comes from. Maybe it's respect for other collectors and stuff, right? So I feel very lucky. Unfortunately, I didn't take a picture. uh I'm just not going to say, hey, can we get a selfie when the con is over and everybody's hanging out and relaxing and stuff, right? And I tell you what, they looked really cool, man, because they were in the corner. They were like in the corner and had this like had their crew there, and they were just having a good time. I don't know if it's their wives, girlfriends, who they were, but they had like these retro 50 cut dresses that had like sci-fi rockets and stuff on them. Very retro, very cool, man, very cool. And then I grabbed this because I'm an Elric fan, and of course I'm a Conan fan, and of course I'm a very Windsor Smith fan, and especially this older stuff, man. I feel like I've always seen it for some reason. I've really appreciated it over the last few years, but I actually have these original Conan issues. Roy Thomas did it. He brought in. He did it. He did it. This must have been a fantastic time in the '70s, but we had Conan meet Elric Milibone, Michael Moorcock's great creation stuff, the anti-hero, the exact opposite of Conan. He was actually forged from Conan, but he twisted everything around to where he's actually the opposite and became his own thing. And of course, people were really confused because if you know anything about Elric and you read the books, he has a very specific, of course, he is an albino, but he has a very specific helmet. And in wardrobe, if you will, right? He has a he has a gigantic helmet that is a dragon, you know, because Melbourne, they have the dragons, if you will, and stuff, right? And for a long time before internet, people were trying to figure out why did Windsor Smith draw him like this, and basically what I have found out. And more people have done the research better than I'm sure. But basically, what happened was is that I found out that a lot of the times when Roy Thomas would be doing Conan, or he would be doing things, adaptations, stuff, he would take the actual books and highlight passages in the actual book and hand them to the artist. Now, of course, there is no book out there where Conan and Elric met, if you will, but there is an Elric book that on the cover he is dressed like a gnome with this red cape. So I'm thinking that's probably what he was handed, if I had to guess. So yeah, that was one of the things. It was great to have Conan and Elric meet, but Elric purists who actually read the book were like, "What the hell's he wearing?" So they still kind of screwed it up, you know. But take it for what it's worth. So what is this? This is I think this was a weekly comic that came out that reprinted Conan the comics and called it Savage Sword. This says number 15, week ending in June 14th, 1975. So when I catalog this, I'll know a little bit more. So I'm actually fine with this. When it comes to Conan, the comic that this came from is, of course, colored. It was 2 parts, and I have it. But there's just something about Conan where maybe it's where I grew up on the Savage Sword of Conan proper magazines. But it's one of the few books I actually prefer the black and white, and that makes no sense to me. When I read Bone, I like the scholastic water the colors that Scholastic did with their approach to the book, and a lot of people are like Bone should be black and white. There we go. But something about Conan, man, the aesthetic. I mean, the Savage Sword of Conan magazine was a staple in the house of Haller since he was a little kid. Okay, glitching here this morning. The Sumerian. Let me see here. Did you get your Gmail order yet with Fire and Ice and Jim Zub Conan yet? Conan feels like Mishima classic goodness. I have read. Is it Titan putting that out? I don't know, but the Conan book that is currently out, where they are going for the Mishima feel. I got the free comic book day and one other issue. It was all right, but the story felt just like it needed to be tweaked. But that's from a very small opinion from reading a very small amount of it. The artwork was fantastic, so I'm there. My Gmart order is still being processed. Maybe I'll have it Thursday. Maybe I'll have the Thursday after. But and I've got some stuff coming in, so I'm patiently waiting, if you will. Right. Okay, so this right here, Josh, out there, brother, if you're watching it, thank you for the Christmas gift. I think I've told you how much I appreciate it and everything like that. But my buddy Josh came and visited me. And of course, we got down here and looked around the comic book room. He was here about 3 or 4 hours. My wife absolutely thought he was fantastic. And he revealed to me yesterday that after the con, before I left, he made sure to say, "Come see me. I got the stuff you let me borrow." And he said he had something else for me. We get out there and he had a early Christmas present wrapped for me. And he said that I'd already asked if I could tell the story, if I didn't want to embarrass him or act like I'm very humbled by it, right? I actually got a little emotional about it. It's very cool because I love thoughtful gifts. It's more of being thoughtful than what he actually got, even though I'm so appreciative of what he got me. So Josh had apparently, when I was running upstairs or checking on the wife or whatever we were doing, Josh, I gave Josh some room here, just kind of look around in the room and stuff, because it can be overwhelming when you get around so much stuff. It turns out he was looking on the bookshelves and he saw that I had the annotated Sandman. There was 4 volumes that came out in 2011 and 12, I think. And I had volumes 3 and 4 out of the 4 that I had gotten at Ollie's, and I think they were like $11 or something when I got them. Well, somewhere along the line, he had found volume 1, and this was my gift from Josh. He got me the annotated Sandman volume 1, and guys, I absolutely love this stuff. Right, all 4 volumes of this. This is 1 through 20 of Sandman. I think it's 1 through 20. Yeah, 1 through 20 of the original Sandman. All right. And it's black and white. And on the sides here, the reason it's odd shaped is because it is comic book size with the pages. And then on the sides, you have these blank areas where they annotate exactly what Neil Gaiman is talking about. Right. And you get details, callbacks to, let me find a really nice one here. Get a page that's just full of stuff. Here we go. So right off the bat, the first time we actually see Morpheus and stuff, that is the splash page from issue 1, if you guys can hear me. And right here, this is all the annotations going into this. So, like I said, it goes through issue. It's big and bulky, and it's fantastic. And you're supposed to sit down and just absorb this. So you have a black and white version of the art with annotations on the side to get to you. I have annotated Watchmen, annotated Sandman volume 1, 3, and 4 now. I have annotated American Gods, the book, because Neil Gaiman really pulls from a lot of myth and things. His stories are he has a very unique way of pulling from a lot of myth and a lot of comics and stuff, right? And one of the things about this, if you've read Sandman, you know that there is a story in the early issues where there is a serial convention, and it's serial killers. He was writing about serial killers before they became hugely popular. I know that sounds grim. In the 90s. The 90s, serial killers really popped. And so did urban legends and things like X-Files. And it had its own little darkness there, right? But he was right. He was ahead of the curve writing about them. And in that story at the serial convention, there's one person called the Boogeyman, who had infiltrated and was hanging out with other serial killers. And they knew that the Boogeyman had already passed away and was dead. So they get a hold of this guy who was posing as one of them, and they do some horrible things to him. Thanks to the annotations, I could have smacked myself, because this is usually the things that I catch. Turns out that serial killer was actually in DC continuity. He passed away. He was dead in issue 44 of Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. So not only did we have a serial killer that really existed in the 80s in Swamp Thing, Neil Gaiman pulled that little trivia out and has somebody pose as him in his Sandman series. I don't know about you, but that's the stuff I love. That's the stuff that makes it juicy, collecting all these books and, having a whole idea. So, Josh, as you can see, I've already started devouring it. I'm already appreciating it. And on top of all of it, like I've told you, hopefully I'll probably tell you again, it's the thoughtfulness of what you found. Very thoughtful gift. Thank you. And like I said, physically in my hands, I'm already devouring it and enjoying it. So thank you. Very humbled. Very humbled. All right. What do we got here? Okay. And now, guys, the stuff that I've sort of been like hyping up, they get better. They've gotten better. This first issue here that I want to show you, this was like $2, right? A lot of these were half off here. And like I said, they do get better here, right? But when the Supergirl hit, got her own series that Peter David was writing, it got a few reprints. It was just these are Mylar. Someone had some glaze on there. So let's see if I can get this on here. But as you can see, this is a recreation of Supergirl's first appearance, Action Comics. Why can I not think of it? They actually had a whole Amazing Spider-Man book where Peter Parker was gifted her first appearance by Mary Jane. Anyway, but if you cannot see that, this is Supergirl popping out of her ship as she landed on Earth, a full-grown teen, and they replaced Superman with Batman and stuff, right? So this book was actually hot at one point for a reprint. This is the third reprint, but this was one that I actually wanted. I didn't get that series. I'm a Peter David fan, but I never really read that series. But when I saw this cover, I was like, I want this. Now, this is from 2005. So for this to be in Mylar, somebody remembers this was cool, I finally finished this up. Paul Pope's Year 100. This was $5. Number 2, this is one that was eluding me, and now I could finally read this, right? And I just watched a YouTube video that was a little bit older that was on the Criterion channel, Criterion Collection channel of movies and things. And he just worked on some project for a movie of Paul Pope. So I love the fact that Paul Pope apparently is an artist. He's got a book called Battling Boy that was actually a rejected Commandy pitch. I need to get that also. But this was the first time I heard about Paul Pope. I have some Batman Black and White by him. I swear I think I have something from the 90s by him. But Paul Pope is one of those artists who has finally gotten my attention. And I, may be able to rediscover some things. Battling Boy, you mentioned Commandy, I have to get it. And it's amazing how many Commandy pitches were turned down, and DC really hasn't done that much with Commandy since Jack Kirby's 100th birthday. But Kurt Busiek did a pitch for him, and they said no because somebody else was working on Commandy, and that became Autumn Lands, Tooth and Nail Autumn Lands. And then we also got Battling Boy out of it. So talk about things, getting there. Now, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I have said that my era, even though they came out in 84, my era is from about 86 to 91. And then 91 is when I graduated school. And I'm fine with that. All these other things that have happened over the Turtles over the years have been cool. Some have been cringy. They've had failures and success and drama. And if you had told me in we'll say 87-ish, okay, 1987-ish, that, we would be peeking around the corner of the Turtles being 40 years popular, okay, 40 years of just growing and popular and being there and becoming one of those franchises and icons and comics. This came out during the black and white indie era, magazine era of the 80s. That again has a mystique for me because it wasn't accessible, but word of mouth had gotten there. Somewhere along the line, when I was 13, I finally got to read an issue of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I'm sure it was loaned to me by somebody in high school or something. All my friends were 4 and 5 years older than me. Ironically, by the time I was a freshman in high school, all my actual friends had one joined the Navy, two joined the Marines, one joined the Army. I mean, they were gone. You know what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? So some of the stuff came down, but it just blows my mind. But my era is right here with this Mirage, the first series, and kind of the beginning of the Archie comics. That's kind of it. What they did in the Image when Eric Larson got a hold of them was blasphemous. I was laughing. He made all the turtles look different, did some horrific things to some of them. And then they had Venus pop up in a TV show, but then they redeemed themselves with that Nickelodeon show, the early 2000s. And that's what I mean. It's just a journey. And to see them still having movies made, and some bad movies and some good movies. But that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie of 1990, the first one, that is gold. That is forever. And that's how I feel about this. As you can see, I really love this era of Turtles. Frank Miller, Jack Kirby inspired in there. And I did not and I love telling the story. I love there's times where you can have a story change your opinion of something that you looked at and thought was ridiculous at the time. And now it's like I look at it, I can't even imagine how I thought that just by looking at them, right? But that first issue where the turtles are on the rooftops and they're getting attacked by ninjas of the clan, and it's someone, and even one of them up close to the turtles is like, you can tell he's freaked out by this is a giant fucking turtle. And he's like, he cuts me, he's like, oh, you bleed. And the turtle looks at him, and was it Michelangelo? And he's like, yeah, I bleed, and you do too. And you can tell that he's just cut that guy's head off. And I'm like, oh, perfect. Because ninjas at the time, it's one of the reasons I also didn't get the Tick when it first started out, and that was a huge mistake because ninjas were such a cliched trope of the 80s. And I fortunately knew about ninjas right before that because of, yes, some B movie somewhere, but because Remo Williams in the Destroyer books had already had some ninjas in the 70s. Now, I'm not saying that people didn't know ninjas were out there, but I'm just saying when it came to pop culture and you had these movies and TV shows and all this stuff, Frank Miller brought them into pop culture. I don't care what anybody says with Daredevil. But yeah, but by that time, that's one of the things. A little story about me before I move on here because it's just popping in my head. But around this time when I was like about 15 or 16, I had my D&D troop, and they were some older guys and stuff. And one of my friends was having a birthday party. And what was wild is that his party was outside in his yard by the street. He had some kids there and stuff. And one of my friends dressed up like a ninja for his birthday party. And Dave came, his name was David Lowe. He's gone on to be an actor. You can actually IMDb him, David Lowe. And he's had bit parts in the background of all these movies. He was a doctor in the Hunger Games. And he's went on to be a bit player in tons of movies. Like, you won't recognize him. You won't know his name, but you'll be amazed at all the movies where he's like a professional extra in the background and might have a line or two in these movies. Anyway, he was performing as a ninja, and you didn't touch me back then. I was an angry young man back then. And he came up and he was going to beat me up for the kids and stuff. And I ended up beating up a ninja at a 12-year-old's birthday party in front of kids 12 to 5, so yeah. Howler Mouse beat up a ninja in front of kids, makes me think about Mallrats when Jay and Bob beat up the Easter Bunny. Same effect. Okay, enough of that. So if you saw my live show previously from this one, not only did I get a bunch of the Dark Phoenix saga original X-Men books, I also got the first appearance of Cloak and Dagger and Spectacular Spider-Man. I think it was issue 64. And I laughed when I found these because these came to $4 total. They were half off, right? I got the second and third appearance of Cloak and Dagger. This is what I'm talking about, putting things out in the universe. And it seems like they'll just fall in front of you once you get started. It's amazing, right? So, yeah, some Cloak and Dagger, early Bill Mantlo issues and stuff, right? Now, Cloak and Dagger, for some reason, I've always wanted to kind of get a hold of them and really do some real stories that weren't street level and drug related. They are the way I remember the Cloak and Dagger when they came out, it was sort of a preachy look kind of book with their origin because they were trying to be everything. They were mutants because they were popular at the time. They were trying to be street level. You had an urban kid, you had a rich girl, and it was drugs and drug dealers and things that got them in the era of Nancy Reagan's Say No to Drugs, stuff like that. But I think there was so much more that could have been done with them if they had just pulled them up out of that urban area and got them out of New York or whatever and played around with the concept of light and darkness a bit more. These characters, the concept and the core of the characters of playing around, of having your powers feel more like what came from inside you of your essence. I always felt like there was more there. There was so much more there, but they kept them street level. That was the mistake in my think. And I know Cloak and Dagger and Bill Mantlo and them have their fans and stuff, right? I mean, there's also like a little bit of reaction to like Teen Titans, I think, and stuff like that, right? But I think I just feel like there was just so much more with the concept of light and dark is what I'm trying to get at. All right, we'll go ahead and do this, right? So I didn't bring it down. I know what the other dollar book was, but I think I've already filed it away by accident last night when I was going through all the stuff, rebagging things and stuff. But I've made a bit of a game of getting this entire 50 issue run. You know what I'm talking about if you've watched the channel, and the reasons behind it and stuff, right? But just to recap for anybody that's seen this in the future or whatever, right? But about a year and a half ago, I found a ton of Immortal Hulk books in a dollar bin at a flea market. And a little while after that, I went to a comic book convention, and maybe the very one that I got these books from a few years ago, right? And there was people selling the very books I found for $20, $30, and $40, and I got a lot of attitude from them. I never saw anything like it from 2-3 of these dealers. And I haven't seen those dealers since then, to be honest with you, now that I'm thinking about it, right? So I decided to kind of make a game, and now I only need 11 more issues and of this book that I had to come around to and stuff, right? But I'm getting every issue I can for $1. Now, there's a few things where, like I said, this is just for fun. This is a game, and I'm not cheating at it per se, but we're keeping in the spirit of it, right? I got number 1. I showed my last live stream for like $8 off of eBay. Well, I got a director's cut issue 1 and 2, which are reprints with extras in them for $2 for $2 total. For both of them, $1 a piece, right? So that kind of counts. I already have this issue 16 but it's not the Alex Ross cover. I found it for $1. So I went ahead and paid $5 for number 16 because I absolutely love this cover. I think in the third trade that comes out that I found for $1 also, I found some trades of this. This is the cover that they use for that. I absolutely love what Alex Ross has done here with Rick Jones sitting in the cemetery playing his harmonica with the Hulk looking down on him. That glare is horrible, guys. I really want this to be seen. So this is one of my favorite covers of a comic ever. So well done. It's so retro, man. I feel like I'm like right there in 1963, when I look at that. So the dollar book I didn't show is the Alex Ross cover for issue 15, where the Hulk is laid out on a couch and Doc Samson is behind him in his 70s outfit, his superhero outfit with the red shirt, disco blue pants, and the lightning bolt on his chest with his green hair, sitting there playing psychiatrist to him. I found that one for $1. All right. So these last two, this is what we've been waiting on and stuff, right? So Miracleman, Alan Moore, taken over by Neil Gaiman. And then all the years where we finally that went by and who owned Miracleman and who did this and who did that. Neil Gaiman, Todd McFarlane. I can sit here and do buzzwords to talk about this. And finally, 10 years after they announced it, we are finally getting Marvel finishing the Silver Age. For 30 years for some of us, we have waited for that last issue, last story arc of Miracleman before Eclipse had collapsed and stuff, right? And I can tell Neil Gaiman is somebody has tweaked some of those stories. There's no doubt in my mind. So right now, currently, as we're talking about this, we've had the Silver Age books from Marvel come out by Neil Gaiman, Mark Buckingham, new covers, and I still feel like some of the stories have been tweaked a bit and stuff, right? In the meantime, we'll just get one of these. In the meantime, I've got these fantastic hardcover editions where they've collected the Eclipse books, and I found with the Neil Gaiman taken over that instead of trying to get the whole series of Miracleman from the Eclipse here, I'm just going to focus on the Alan Moore, and I just need a few more. Why? Because Neil Gaiman really took an artistic approach to this. It's more of experimenting in comics artistically and storyly than it is about what Alan Moore did, where it was more superhero in the real world, playing with the idea of the Captain Marvel mythos and stuff, and making it grounded in the real world. And that's a very, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, that was not a very graceful description of what Alan Moore did with Miracleman. Anyway, because, I mean, for example, there's one whole issue that's about Andy Warhol and clones. It's like you have a pop culture artist story about a pop culture artist in a pop culture comic. See what I mean? So not saying that, I think you get it. The tone is completely different. I'm going to reread the Alan Moore books more than I am the Neil Gaiman stuff. Does that make sense? And with the Silver Age, okay, this the Silver Age that's coming on, the trade that will be after this, the 6, 7, 8 issues, whatever it is after this, that is more in tone with a sequential story than, a artistic approach to some of these books and stuff, showing the world of miracles, that it was setting up for the next story. It was showing how Miracleman changed the world. But anyway, I have number 15, which is the big hard issue to get. I think I'm missing like maybe 2 or 3 issues now of the Alan Moore run and stuff, right? But I found number 16 for a steal. I think I paid $10 for this in Mylar. Fantastic issue. This is Alan Moore's last issue before Gaiman popped up. And I already have quite a few of the Gaiman issues, over the years and stuff. Actually, his first issue, I found 7 copies of number 17 for like $1 a piece, and they're worth about 20 a piece. Yeah, it amazed me. So anyway, this fantastic, beautiful issue, and the guy that I bought this off of, Pop Up Comics, I think, really nice guy from the Northern Virginia area, probably around the Washington, Fairfax area. Very attentive guy, great guy, had a lot of great books. Yes, some are pricey, but like I said, at this specific con, deals were there to be made. You know what I mean? So this was fantastic. This was originally 15. I ended up getting it for 10, which was, I thought, a fantastic deal. So thanks to him for that. And I also bought this off of him. This is the book that there's quite a history with me, right? Will it blow you away? I don't know. Do you like the concept? I don't know. Do you like J. Michael Straczynski? I don't know. If you like a prelude to the Killing Joke, I don't know. Do you like Batgirl, Zatanna, Wonder Woman, all that stuff? Who knows, right? But this came out in 2010, right? And this was a pisser, right? Because I was already I got the first 12 issues of this series that was by Mark Waid and George Perez. Loved it, up and down from there. And then all of a sudden, J. Michael Straczynski, maybe it had to be in Wizard or something, but I read an article where he was talking about taking the concept of Brave and Bold, and he's like, there's all sorts of team ups nobody had ever done. He just wrote a list of characters that should never meet, and he's going to come up with new ideas. And I'm like, well, that's for me. So he ended up having Aquaman and the Demon having a story, right? Joker with somebody, Joker and the Atom or something. Then he had like the Legion of Substitute Heroes meet the Fatal Five, and the Legion of Superheroes meet the Doom Patrol, Silver Age style, and all this stuff, right? And right in the middle of all this was this book that came out that ended up taking off because it's a prelude to the Dark Knight. Maybe does it have an? I don't even know if it has an Adam Hughes cover. Now the picture of this is in 2011 in Abingdon, Virginia. Um, um, there was a store going that was getting out of comics, Y2K Games, Games 2000, year 2000 Games is what it was. They had this kind of store. They had used video games, used DVDs. They were getting comics in, new video games, things like that, right? And man, let me get a little coffee, man. I'm starting to wind down here. So anyway, they were getting out of the comic book. I had ties to the store. They had 3 or 4 stores in southwestern Virginia. And when they first started up, they wanted me to be a manager for them. And I also went in and helped them showed them what comics people would buy and help them with their orders and stuff. A bunch of my friends actually worked for them in one store, and they had several. And this one's in Abingdon, Virginia. So I walk in and they said they had just donated a bunch of their comics and back issues and stuff to a library. Comics were declining quite a bit, but they still had all these boxes and stuff. And I was like ripping through them, getting dollars boxes. I'm sure if I go back, I've bound to be some of my first YouTube videos and stuff, right? That's 2011 and 12, I think. And I saw this one. Then I saw the Superman Batman annual that had Batman Beyond 1 million. It had Batman Beyond and the Superman on it. Anyway, there's this one Batman Superman annual from around this time that's worth a lot of money, and all this stuff. It's a collectible one. And I had this one in my hand for $1. Little did I know that this was a key comic on eBay that was huge. And I was like, I can't believe I walked away from that. A couple years go by, and here in Tazewell, Virginia, down the road, there's a store that this guy buys up collections, and he does this stuff, but he's one of those guys that does eBay prices. I ended up shooting a whole video on why you should walk away from stores, comic book stores, gaming stores, or whatever, that don't price their stuff, let you go through their boxes for an hour, work free for them, pick out their key books just to have them waste your time at their register while they look them up on eBay. And this person saw this book, and he just kind of took it from me, and he put it to the side and refused to sell it to me. And it was just sort of like, it's an eBay thing, try to downplay it like I didn't know what I had here. So I finally had this. I bought this just because of the 13-year journey with it. And it's about worth $35. I paid 20, I think 20 or 25. I'll have to look up the digital receipt. I don't normally pay that much for a book, but this was all right. It's mint, it's Mylar. It's held its value for a few years, and if you get on eBay, it goes for ridiculous prices. Now, I don't mind if you look on December 3rd, but I found 2 of them that are, the auctions have just started, and they have a low bidding price. I'm going to watch them to see if it's going to match all the other ones that have ridiculous prices like $50 and up. So yeah, I'm going to follow those. And of course, if they're under $10, I might bid on them or something. I don't know, maybe snipe them and stuff, right? But Brave and the Bold 33, prelude to Killing Joke. And from what I understand, it's been years since I actually on comic book YouTube, going all the way back to like 2011 or 2010, 11 or 12, there were a few channels that I don't know what happened to them. They didn't really last that long, and they never really connected with Captain Strange life and stuff, I guess. But I think there was one or two videos that I remember watching that reviewed this. I'm going to look them up after we're done here, right? But anyway, that's how I found out what was going on in this. But basically, Zatanna, because she's magical, apparently is instead of studying spells and things like that, apparently her essence is magical, I guess. But out of nowhere, and I am calling J. Michael Straczynski out of this. I've never heard Zatanna being able to do this before nor since, but she had a premonition dream that she knew just wasn't a dream, where she knew that Barbara Gordon was going to get shot, but she didn't know when or where. And her answer to this is, well, I don't want to mess with the future because I can't change the future. So I'm just going to call up Wonder Woman, and we're going to take Barbara Gordon out to a bunch of clubs. So, yeah, that's why I'm surprised that this is something. Maybe when I actually read it from front to back, maybe the story makes more sense. I mean, J. Michael Straczynski, this guy's wrote TV and cartoons and He-Man, and was the story consultant editor in control of the 80s Twilight Zone. And, he's done some great stuff, but he's also done some stinkers. But anyway, Changeling, the movie Changeling, fantastic movie, based on real crime and stuff, right? So, yeah. But the whole concept of this, I just find ridiculous. I dreamed you're going to die. I've never had a premonition dream before or since, but I know this was real. And I can't tell you that you're going to be shot, so I can prepare you to at least check who opens the door, and from here on out in your future, set up a camera, get Batman to help you out. I don't know. And their answer is to just randomly call up Wonder Woman and go clubbing. So if anybody has read this and it's better than that, let me know. I'm going to read it. But that's just, I find hilarious, so again, I've got to read it, so from front to back, so completely read it and see what the deal is. Maybe it has a twist ending, I don't know. i hope I hope story wise that it's one of those things that, thanks to Zatanna interfering without even realizing it, by like taking her to the club, she messed up things to where that's what put Barbara Gordon really in line with the Joker. You see what I'm saying? Like, by doing nothing, she actually helped cause it. That's the monkey paw twist, is what I would do. That's what I'd probably do it. All right, let's take a few questions and we're going to call it a day. I'm thinking about doing separate rant videos. If you guys want me to rant about something, let me know. I got plenty to rant on from the last 7 years. That's one of the things that came up at the comic book convention. One or two people did recognize me from the channel, and I joke around saying I'm like Woody Allen. All my best movies are from the 70s. I think the first 7 years of my channel, up until about 2018, I think, those are the stuff that a lot of people are still watching. I get 1,000 views a week just on my older stuff, according to my things. But I'm a bit of a reactionary. I think the whole comic book industry the last 7 years has been not a lot to be very excited about, and I didn't realize how reactionary I was. I actually went through a mourning period, an actual mourning period, for comics and stuff, that took me a little while to get out of. So yeah, there's plenty of rant on. And but as I was talking to people, the two people that recognized me at the convention, I was just sort of like, I'm not doing all this. They're like, well, it's kind of hard to do anything with the state of way things are going in. It's like, it was really odd to have people not blame me for not being too excited about things. They didn't get accused of being old school and stuff. And I will go ahead and tell you guys, Facebook is amazing, because if I comment on something comic book related that shows up in my feed, I get attacked. And I ended up slicing and dicing these fucking people like Jim Cornette. I never thought I'd see I don't argue with them. We're not talking about getting on there on Facebook and social media and arguing with other people. I throw facts on them, then I tell them their behavior. I hit them on twofold sides. And I've caused people to recently and stuff take away their comments and stuff, but you can still see mine and see that I'm talking to them. Doesn't last long. I'm not sitting there obsessing and stuff, but people have finally come around and realized there's a lot more going wrong than right. So let's get to these questions here. So if you want me to do a rant video and you want a topic, I'll do it. Our Mouse, do you think that, well, here we go. Gray Man Media. Sorry it took so long to get to you, man. You can see I kind of got on a roll there. Do you think the current fall of mainstream movie comics is due to the industry rising too high to the sun? MCEU, DCEU doesn't seem tied to the OG fans, but the fair weather trendy folk. There's a lot that plays into it, but it's the people making the content, it falls in their lap. To me, in my opinion, it all starts with the leadership and what they're doing with it, right? And what really burns me up is that they already had a premonition, a warning, if you will. This is Zatanna having the dream, knowing that Barbara Gordon was going to get shot. I mean, your question ties, that's a perfect little metaphor, allegory there and stuff, right? We saw the Marvel books crash with Captain Marvel and all that stuff that they were doing at Marvel and changing the legacy characters. Those books, those movies started out just like the Marvel Universe, Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, leading up to the Avengers and stuff, man, right? It had the Jack Kirby, you know what I mean? It had the roots and everything that went through there. And then they were bringing in things. They were having callbacks to the books, and it was just, they really had it down. Then they started getting formulaic. Even before Endgame hit and stuff, they got formulaic with it, and people were picking up on it because there are comic book fans and there are movie fans separate. Then you had people who were both, like me, who would see the little Easter eggs in the back and things like that, that were little calls and winks and nods to people like the comics. And then they abandoned all that for all the stuff that was failing and people have been upset about and retailers were raising about and trying to make Captain Marvel something just like in the comics, I think, and Miss Marvel and things. And you find out that there's like, I can't think of the lady's name, the lady who was actually the real head of Marvel Comics, had them co-create with her Miss Marvel, and now she's profiting off of it. You know what I mean? Too many hands in the pot, too many people that love comics, and they got away from the source material. And of course, if you want to get into the ideologies that they're throwing out there and stuff, to me, it's more sloppy writing. I think any idea can be presented in a balanced way and storytelling wise, and that's really what's getting to people because it turns into agenda and propaganda more than telling the story. And they're doing this because they think it's trendy and it's going to bring a younger audience. And of course, you got people who have lost their minds in charge of some of this stuff, right? But it's not authentic, and people are finally seeing through it and stuff, right? So the fall of it is probably, if I had to like come up with numbers and stuff, there are people who are like, man, that was a wild ride. And it's not that it was fatigue from superheroes, it was that we got the end of a story and Marvel hasn't continued that good storytelling. They moved on to what I just said. They abandoned the elements that made those good stories and the structure and stuff and the real heroes and the characters and stuff, and they disrespected them. Now, if you think, and to let you know where I'm coming from, not to be, and I'm not being confrontational, I want you to go back and I want you to watch, we'll go with 3 movies. I want you to watch Captain America. Okay. We'll go with Winter Soldier, the tone of that movie and things, right? Then I want you to watch Guardians of the Galaxy. It had the James Gunn brought an identity to it and some humor. Okay. It had its own identity. Then I want you to go and watch the She-Hulk TV show. I realize I'm doing 2 movies with a TV show, but the budget of that She-Hulk show could have been a whole movie on its own. And I want you to see the tone. Everything started becoming, let's make it Disney princess like. Let's make it Disney family like, or what they thought. And they made everything have the tone of Guardians of the Galaxy, which instead of making it unique. So there's a lot of things that have gone wrong. Now, She-Hulk also started, in my opinion, started the downfall of some of the crashing of the back issues, besides the speculations and all that stuff like that. First of all, there's trends and bubbles that pop over the years. This is why I've been saying speculation reporting every week in the market doesn't work that way. Okay, so people are really going on, but at the same time, we have this Atana Batgirl effect here, where they did play a part in it inadvertently, thanks to greed and stuff like that. But a lot of people got burned going out and spending all this money by the experts just not to have the payoff. What played into that? People were going nuts and crazy over two books because of the She-Hulk show, right? There's been this whole thing of where we're hearing about characters that are going to be in a movie. Let's go get their first appearance. When I heard people were going nuts for the Defenders, what is it, number 17, 16, whatever it is, for the Wrecking Crew, I'm like, what the hell is wrong with people? That's the Wrecking Crew. People were going nuts, spending big money. I saw it, and I knew it was a mistake. They were going after the first appearance of the Wrecking Crew and the first appearance of Titania. Titania, depending on what they did, that's the book I would have went for, right? But the Wrecking Crew, no, you got to know comics to realize what I'm getting at here, right? And what did they do in the TV show? They made it the butt of jokes. Those characters were not respected. They became ridiculous characters, and a lot of people who had spent a lot of money getting those books started opening their eyes, and that's where a piece of that market disappeared. They were like, and they walked away quietly because they were embarrassed because there were people out there warning them. So yeah, there's a lot that led to it. Yeah, I'm sure there's some people sick of comic book movies. I'm sure that it's the structure, and they picked Kang for the villain. Okay, bad idea. I'm documented on here how I think Kang has always been silly and stuff, right? No structure, and of course, too much bad quality stuff over the years and stuff. They killed their brand, and I've seen it before when people overextend and go for greed over. They lose the quality. This has happened with in comics also. A lot of stuff that we've seen, you can look at comic book history and see it's happened also. I would put this up there with, if I was going to compare it to something comic book history off the top of my head, and I'm sure there's something a bit more accurate and stuff, I would put this with Acclaimed Comics coming in and having the coup to push Jim Shooter out of Valiant Comics. That's what I feel like this is. Okay, there you go. And plus, they're trying to make it a Disney brand overall. That's the problem. Disney is actually it went from Mickey Mouse and cartoons and things like that to a princess brand, and that's no that's not. Go look at Big Bang Theory. Big Bang Theory had the episode where all three girls on it went to become Disney princesses. You see what I'm saying? While they lectured a bunch of schoolgirls into how to being something more. You know what I mean? That's perfect for what I'm talking about here. But Gray Man, who did that? Is that Gray Man? Gray Man, I am Howler Mouse on Instagram. Give me a yell if you'd like to come on here, and maybe we'll do a rant live show together or something, or however you want to do it. Give me a yell if you're still there. I'm not OCD, but I hate getting variant covers to complete runs. I love the Immortal Hulk. Been spending them. That I should pick up the been spending more than I should to pick up the Alex Ross covers and Virgin covers for Vendetti Hawkman issues. Yes, Marion, I get what you're saying, and I've been there. I lived through the 90s. You know what I mean? But like I said, that particular cover, if it's something I really want, I don't mind. Otherwise, I just kind of skim through, and I'm not real worried about it. I get mad when I find out that a second or third print is worth more than the original print. That's my OCD thing. And let me show you something about Immortal Hulk here, right? This CLZ app, let's bear with me real quick. I'm going to go fast as I can. If you really wanted to get a complete set of Immortal Hulk, all 50 issues with variant covers, wait till you see how many they put out. I'm going to show you something here. Immortal Hulk. Are you ready for this? 268 issues. It's not going to show up. But if you get your CLZ app out or you look up all the issues, there it comes. 268 issues is the complete number of Immortal Hulk books they put out of 50 issues. That's reprints and variant covers. Think about that. They made a fortune on Immortal Hulk. Had to have. Retail incentives and everything. That really opened my eyes when I got that app and started putting in the Immortal Hulk a year and a half ago. I was like, oh my God. Dynamic Forces. I hate what that company does. If you're pre-ordering books, they take comics and Virgin covers and all this stuff, get signatures and stuff, and that is some serious money you've got to spend to get some of that stuff. I love that Brave and Bold. Okay, thank you, Sumerian. Awesome, thank you. I had that Brave and Bold. Weird how I discovered these books were worth money. I had those last few Zatanna issues with Adam Hughes covers that are worth some cash. Just found that out last month. I do the same thing. I do the exact same thing. I have things that I bought and loved, And I think I've said it over the years in a video here and a video there when I find out things like that, that it's kind of cool that the authority, the freaking authority issues and the Stormwatch stuff for Warren Ellis, the way they have popped because of the James Gunn movie, I think that's the last time it really happened. Here we go. Eric Breen is here. Good morning. It's not a good story. The art is pretty to look at. I'm assuming you're talking about the Brave and the Bold, sir. I've got a fan. Yeah. Little Jimmy Fireball. I would love a good rant. You get me going, I can rant for days. It's getting me there. It's the problem. I was an angry young man. I have worked on myself. I have gotten older, things like that. Very long fuse, but bam, if you make me blow up, it's going to last for days. And I get Tom Petty about holding a grudge and stuff. Can't help it. But if you have burned my fuse for that long, you've earned it instead of me, just being that way. Rant on. Thank you, sir. Just my luck. I started watching this channel in year 8. Yeah, if you go back, my stuff's completely different. It might put you to sleep and stuff, but it's comic book history, OMAC history, the history of OMAC. It was new. We were figuring out what we were doing and just having fun. A lot of the formats that you see, if you just started doing this in years, Eric Brain and stuff, the formats and a lot of the terminology came from that core of us that were there in the early days. That's why I can't get into a lot of new channels. I've seen it all before. The biggest channel that I should absolutely love, and I'm real careful because I'm not down in them. It's just they do very few things that I've never seen before, and they've actually done things that have been done 20 times before them. Is that kayfabe? Oh my God, Bison, Tom Scioli. I don't know, the cartoonist kayfabe. That should be a channel I absolutely love, but everything they're doing, we've done before. That's what gets me. And it's not an unappreciated scholar kind of thing. It really is me just kind of shaking my head like this has all been done before. Constant Bromstar, CTC Spirit, even Captain Strange Life, me, they can howl. I mean, it's all been done before. Hulk's Big Toe, Hippies Collectibles, going way back. It just blows my mind. But I love how they had the Howard Chaykin interview, and they handled that perfect. I think that's their best thing that I remember seeing. I need to check them out. I haven't looked at their stuff in over a year at least, and I've only watched probably 6 or 7 videos of theirs completely. But that Howard Chaykin interview they did, that really sticks out of my head. And why is it so good? Because the one dude knew exactly what he was doing. He looked at Howard Chaykin and called him sir. And him and his buddy were looking directly into the camera, which to me would be looking at him in the eye. And they let Howard Chaykin go and talked. And it was yes, sir, and go on, and absolutely, and it was perfect. They did so I could praise them for what I've seen, but at the same time, I've already seen it all. All right. Jim Cornette at Howlermouse. Let me tell you, brother, I listened to the Jim Cornette podcast. I am an old school wrestling fan. 1978, 79. Freebirds, Junkyard Dog, Ric Flair, Harley Race, Kevin Sullivan is still a good guy. Boogie Woogie Jimmy Valiant at Memphis Wrestling, all the way through the NWA years. Saturday morning on TBS, Saturday night at 6:05 on TBS. Vince McMahon coming on in '84 on TBS, going, "What the hell is this wrestling?" Memphis. All the way up to about 2000. I hung in there till about 2007, 2008, man. Volunteering for night shifts at my group home I worked in the 90s because they had a satellite dish and I could find ECW at 2 in the morning and record it. Yeah. So yeah, Jim Cornette and his podcast and the way he is, absolutely. Yeah. And here's another cool thing about Jim Cornette. My stepdad that I referred to, the man couldn't grow a full beard because he couldn't grow sideburns. So he would have a goatee and some patchy stuff, and when he shaved, he looked like Jim Cornette, glasses and everything. What we got here? Great point about writing. Thank you, sir. Howler Mouse. I was watching comic book TV shows from the 70s. Same. Super Friends, Fantastic Four. I still remember Magneto on the Fantastic Four cartoon in the 70s. And despite the series not being related to comics, I can still watch and read the OG. Absolutely, Gray Man. I'm with you on that. Good times. What's when we scrounge? That's when we scrounge for comic book stuff. You know, they're spoiled nowadays and stuff, right? Yeah. I remember watching a TV show called a movie called Explorers in the 80s. And if you go back and watch that movie, a kid is asleep in his room and they kind of pan the room. Or is it Gremlins? No, it's Explorers. And as they pan the room, there's a copy of the official handbook of the Marvel Universe on the kid's desk they go over. You would see things in the background and be like, there, you know. We were the original meme of Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at himself from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood on TV when he's watching FBI, you know. What we got here? I'd hoped that Disney and She-Hulk failure would have brought down the price of those pregnant and half-naked covers so I can complete that run. I laugh about it. Now, like I said, and when I say laugh, I'm not laughing at the ridiculousness or the people that are willing to pay those and get those complete runs. I would love to know what led up to those books being worth that much. I have a video, and you've probably seen it, where I think it was last year. I pulled out the jump rope, the naked She-Hulk issue, and I showed people she was neither naked in it nor was this real. The She-Hulk TV show. I'm gonna have to just do. I hope I remember what I'm saying here because I may just have to do a She-Hulk TV rant. What people don't realize is that they are pulling from the John Byrne comics to defend what they did at the finale of that show, where she broke the fourth wall and was walking around, and it was a TV show. That show cannot be canon. If they're going to do that, the show cannot be canon to anything in the Marvel Cinematic Universe because if you read issue 50 of John Byrne's She-Hulk run, and I may have done a video on it, it turns out that the entire sensational She-Hulk John Byrne run is a comic book within the Marvel Universe. If you lived in the Marvel Universe and went to a spinner rack or a comic book shop, that is the kind of comic book you would buy. They license their image to Marvel Universe, meet with some writers, tell them some of their adventures, and maybe they'll use it. So yeah, it's not even that show would be a TV show in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It wouldn't be real. So it's not serious. So you're watching something that has nothing to do with canon if they follow their own rules. So screw that She-Hulk show, you know. So I mean, it would actually mean nothing, and it made a joke of so many characters, you know. So yeah. I meant only wanting the Alex Ross covers. I hate variants and only buy them. Oh, I got you, Sumerian. I know what you're saying. We'll have to get you on here. You've got an invitation to be on here, Sumerian. You've watched this stuff and commented so many times over the years. Gray Man, again, you're welcome to get a hold of me and arrange something. I mean, you're across the pond from us, so yeah, definitely get a hold of me on Instagram if you don't mind, and we can arrange something with our time zones and stuff. If you want to come on here and just talk about whatever you want to talk about, I might consider a tag team rant show with you, though I'm being under my other channel. Till you later. Keep it kayfabe. Gotcha, brother. Yeah, Gray Man. And anybody else that wants to jump on here with me, man, just go to Instagram. That's the best way to get a hold of me. Realize I'll work. I'll get back as soon as I can and stuff, and we can work something out and get the time zones and stuff, and let's do it. All right, guys, that's it. Thanks for hanging in here with me. Thanks for popping in and spending Sunday morning with me. Thanks for drinking coffee with me. Thanks for complimenting my hat. Thanks for saying we need to. I've been, I had a Jim Cornette reference on here. It doesn't get better than that. And great to see Gore, Sumerian, John C., everybody like that. Like the video, man. Like the video. I liked this one. I had a good time. Like it for me. Like it in the name of Howlermouth there, as like a kind of like a donation, and then share it and subscribe and all that good stuff, man. Always great to see everybody. Great to see you, Gore, and everybody else that's popped on here, man. So be excellent to each other.